excited for today's YouTube video because I'm talking about something that, you know, I feel like I should have talked about a lot earlier. But it's okay, better late than never. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so as hopefully most of you, but definitely some of you know, I self-published actually, a book entitled Uneasy. An image should be here, I believe. And the link to purchase, check it out, all that good stuff, and like not bio, this is not Instagram, description box. But that was, you know, an interesting process. I was 19 when I published it. Okay. And it was a hard process, especially because I self-published it. I think that's a very specific point that I need to make here. Like, I didn't just write, oh, no, submit. No, like, I went through the whole process of creating it from start to finish. But yeah, so I want to talk about how I did it, because, well, one, for anyone who's interested in self-publishing a book, I've gotten some questions from some people, not too many, but I don't know who's interested. So for the internet, here's the information, right? And then also, even if you're not looking to specifically publish a book, or like literature isn't like your creative medium, like, I think it's still important to talk about my process so that way you know like the work it takes to make your art, your work, whatever, your creation public. And sometimes that takes more than just the creative skills. Sometimes it takes technical skills and like just stamina, you know. So it's important to talk about it in general. Hopefully this inspires you, hopefully it educates you to, you know, narrow your visions for the upcoming season, year, I don't know, you know. But anyway, point one, you need to find what story is actually yours to tell. I don't think a lot of people know, but like, it took me 4 attempts to actually like successfully publish a book. I remember the first 4 times, I don't know, when was the first time? I think I was like 13. I know, because I've been a writer since very young, so my parents were always very, you know, encouraging of that skill, of that art, and they're like, Nisa, you gotta, you know, make a book, publish your work, you know, get your work out into the world. I'm like, okay. So there's many times where I just tried writing a book and it didn't work out because I would get like 20 pages deep. First of all, I don't think there's a correct way to do it, but the way I was doing it wasn't accurate for the story I needed to tell. So like the first time I was trying to write like a fiction, like Diary of the Wimpy Kid style piece, where like this is like the funny shit to go through in like middle school, you know, and that didn't work well, you know, because that wasn't what I needed to talk about. Yeah, there was just a couple times it just was like, I think I tried to write an ebook on like natural hair or some shit. I don't remember, but it did not work out. How this story came to, I guess, like manifest itself was basically my mom, ever since I was younger, whenever I read a poem, she's like, Nisa, make sure you date it, make sure you put it all in one place. So, you know, as I got a laptop, getting older in school and whatnot, I started jotting my poems into Google Drive, and I'd always put the date on them. And I had a little folder in my little, you know, email Google Drive, and it was just like Nisa's poems or whatever, right? So sometimes when I was bored, you know, I'd scan through my poems. If I'm adding another one, I might go back and reminisce and like through old ones. And I remember at the beginning of 2019, was it at the beginning? Maybe it was the end of 2018 going into 2019. I was looking through my poems and I'm like, you know what? Like, I actually have a very similar story that's being told throughout all of these poems. Like, I was finding a pattern of, or a theme of a Black feminine experience being told from, you know, from my singular viewpoint. I don't know, I just felt like, okay, I'm liking this theme, I can see this going somewhere. And that was the thing for me, like, I had a lot of poems, but I was not about to be that person who just slapped together all my poems, but like a book, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to tell a story, even if it's not fiction, you know what I'm saying? I want it to be cohesive, and I want it to flow, and I want there to be something to comprehend at the end of it. So basically, I looked at these poems and I'm like, okay, like I can see myself like filling in the pieces, you know what I'm saying? So that was me finding my story. This is something I can actually finish. This is something I have a lot to talk about. This is something that I find value in to persevere through the end, even though there's so much hard working going into that, you know what I'm saying? So find your story, and that in itself will motivate you. Because if it's not something that you're meant to write, then it's not gonna work, you know what I'm saying? Right, okay, perfect. So the second tip is setting your intentions for your process. So now that you have your story, right, now you're like, okay, this is what I want to write, this is what it's going to go, this is the theme, this is, you know, what I'm choosing to tell to the world. Now, how is it actually going to go with you putting that pen to paper, putting that paper into publishing? Like, what is that process going to look like? What are your intentions in that, right? So something I had to think about, that I think a lot of people who, you know, not direct, but who coach people in writing and whatnot, like they always say, like, who is your audience and how are you going to work to cultivate that throughout your writing process and, you know, your publication process. So like by the time you publish it, boom, sell, 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 sell. You know what I'm saying? So this is not a marketing video, so I'm not going to talk too much about like how to make sure your audience wants your book, but I think in writing, it's important to think about who am I writing this for. I mean, primarily me, right? Like, this is my Black feminine experience when it comes to my book, but I'm writing it to be shared because I think this is an experience that has some sense of relatability. So like, how am I going to incorporate my audience into my work, right? So something I thought about is the word femininity. I didn't really want to just pinpoint this as a Black woman experience, you know what I'm saying? Because I think this is something that Black feminine people go through, right? So like, notice my language, it's not exclusive to one gender. So I thought about that, and I had to make sure that in my writing I still did say Black girl sometimes, because again, this is my viewpoint, my perspective, my story, but so that way other people can insert themselves into my story, I decided to use the word femme more. Like, even the description of my book, if you read the back of my book, you know, I don't quite remember what it said. I should have my book pulled up. I don't know why I don't have my book pulled up. At the back of my book, like in my description of like what this is about, I make sure not to use the word woman, you know, or girl. Like, this is a Black feminine experience, often minimized, you know, like that's the language I use. So things like that you have to consider your purpose and your delivery in the process of your creation. I don't know if that was too many big words. Does that make sense? I don't know if it makes sense. Besides your audience in general, like, you need to set your timeline. So I know I decided to like, I'm gonna write a book, you know, like the beginning, I want to say like January 1st, 2019. I was that bitch that was like, you know, I'm gonna set my little intentions for the year, and I did, you know, so I'm not gonna hate on me, period. But yeah, I did. I set my intentions and I was like, okay, I think that this year I want to start writing it and I'm going to have it published by early next year, as in early 2020, right? So I set the timeline, okay, this is what I have so far, this is the material I have, this is what I've written, this is the writing I need to do, right? Even down to like creating like a table of contents, like segregate themes of the book. So like, there's two parts to my book. The first is called Give Me Back My Body, and the second is called All I Know Is the Skin. And then it's within those two parts, it's broken down into like 7 like chapters or sections, right? So like, I started creating that table of contents before the writing was even done, so I know like how I wanted to organize my story. And like, I didn't really force the writing, actually. I mean, for some people, like, you have to make an intention, like, okay, every week I want to put in 10 hours of writing, right? Like, that's for some people. That wasn't for me. Thankfully, I had a lot of my writing and my foundation already set, but when a poem came to me, it came to me, you know? But mostly, outside of the timeline of just writing, I had to think, okay, I want to have my cover photographer found and, you know, completed by this date. I want to have the book formatted by this date. I want to have my illustrations, my illustrator found, and like my illustrations done. Why can I speak English? I need to have my illustrations done by this date. You know, all those little mini things that go into a book, especially if you're self-publishing, because if you send it to a publisher, they do that. They find your illustrations, they do a little cover, done. You know what I'm saying? When you're self-publishing, which I did for the sake of pricing as well, yeah, I don't have all that, so I have to find them myself, you know what I'm saying? And that was also a beautiful experience, because part of my intentions and my process was, this is a Black femme story, so I'm only working with Black femme people. So like, my illustrator, formatter, cover photographer, editor, all them, they were all Black and femme identifying, right? So, you know, just set your intentions, be clear about what you want and what your process should look like ideally, and strive towards that. So in the last point, I elaborated a little bit on like, you know, budget and money and you know, the difference between self-publishing and publishing. That's is it a separate video? I'll elaborate a little bit. Basically, you know, from what I've heard, publishing a book could be like $10,000. I'm like, oh shit, like I can't. I'm a college student, I'm 19, I funded my book completely on my own, you know what I'm saying? I personally spent, I want to say, well, definitely, why am I starting doing that? Definitely under 1,600, under 1,500. I definitely spent under 1,500 on the entire process of publishing my book. Down to, you know, download or buying a barcode for the back of the book, editing, formatting, my illustrations, my photographer, for the cover, all the little tidbits, you know, I paid for it myself, right? But then part of that isn't just like setting the time, like, okay, I want this, I want this, I want this by this date, but like, am I going to have the money by that date? You know, like my illustration, I think I have like 7 illustrations in my book, and altogether there were $250. I had a black femme illustrator. Credits to her are in my book actually, so check out my book. But yeah, I had to make sure that by that date, I had $250 to blow, you know what I'm saying? And also just accounting for extras. There's one so for my cover photographer, I was supposed to meet her, and the same day I also had another event for RAing, right? I don't know if you know, most of y'all are in college, maybe not if you've been to college, but RAing is like resident assistant. It's just a job you have in college that gives you free housing, right? So I had an event for that day, and I took a nap after because I was so tired, and it was like 1 p.m. And the event, like, not the event, but the photography session for the cover was at 4, so I took a nap. Like, I'm gonna wake up in 3 hours, you know what I'm saying? I did not wake up. I woke up at approximately 7 p.m. and I cried because I missed the whole, she did not have my number on Instagram. That was my mistake, but like, I had to pay her. She didn't ask, but like, just out of being considerate for artists and their time, like, I paid her half, like, not even like expecting it back, not expecting it to contribute to if we did another session, you know what I'm saying? And I have to account for that because sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes bitches get tired, you know what I'm saying? And like, that's money. Everything costs money, especially when you're funding yourself. So just like accommodate for that too. Also sacrifice. Like I don't know, publishing my book definitely gave me a different mentality going into college about like priorities with money, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, people were buying AirPods, I was buying my barcode, you know what I'm saying? People were buying Gucci bucket hat, I was buying my copyright, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is, like, I had to really just learn, like, okay, like, these are expensive things and I'm not having anyone contributing to me to pay for these things, so I just have to know maybe I can't go anything but thrift shopping this semester, you know? And like, you have to make your goal a priority enough to just be willing to just, if you gotta be a little skimpy, you know, for a year, you're gonna be a little skimpy. It's gonna be okay, because at the end of the day, after I published my book, a girl went on vacation, also paid by herself, to celebrate, and I had the money to do that. You know why? Because I was smart with my coin. Now, there's a lot of ways where your book doesn't have to be crazy expensive. I chose to support small black femme artists in my creative process, so I mean, technically I don't know what the comparative rates were. I feel like it was a little bit expensive for me, but also I've never published a book before, so I don't know what's normal, you know what I'm saying? But small businesses, sometimes they could be having discounts. You could also, like, I know a lot of people have like friends in college or family members who have a little creative bone. You know, give them a chance, you know, why not? And if you don't like it, you don't like it, but like, you can at least have them submit like a portfolio style something to see, you know, and then you also get to support your friends in that. So there's a lot of ways to make the price go down of the whole publication process. Something I didn't do just because I didn't have the audience for it, but like, let's say you have a YouTube or a blog, or like, yo, Insta is popping, you know, and you have a set audience, you could do pre-orders for your book and you can get money for the book before publishing the book, so that way you can fund the process from the product, I don't know if that makes sense, but like it's really good, you know, you don't have to spend your own money, it's great. So those are some options, but just either way, just, you know, budget, take the time, but it's accessible. Like honestly, under $1,500, like you could be working a high school job in Florida, and if you just save, and I say Florida specifically because minimum wage is really low. I'm from Florida, so like, yeah, but if you just save, like you could do, anybody could do it. It doesn't have to be tens of thousands of dollars, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, you know, have your goal in mind and go for it, poo. Last major point I want to make is on picking a publication platform. So, not the best decision I made, but I used Amazon, and yes, they do steal most of my money. That is true, alright? Not steal, but I just mean like they're like cut. Like my book is $11, right, on Amazon. I get about $4.40 of that, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, ooh, that's a lot for you to take, you know, but at the same time, like, very easy distribution. I'm a small person, I don't have a team, you know what I'm saying? Also with the way my audience is, like, it didn't really make sense for me to like sell one-on-one. It'd just be a lot of work, you know, getting packaging, all that good stuff. I'm just like, ugh. So I did Amazon, but do your research. I tried Lulu first. Lulu was okay, but Lulu had problems with my book cover, I think, when I was trying to like submit like the cover so that way they can like put it all together. I don't know if it was the dimensions or just the software, but it wasn't working. And I emailed them and they're like, yeah, that happens sometimes, but you can't get it back. And I was like, you're gonna, like, complications. So just do your research. There's a lot of YouTube videos that I looked up that was like, okay, actually, I don't remember anything besides Lulu and Amazon. There's a couple of them. I did research on YouTube, so y'all can go there, but that's something that you want to think about before. What's going to be the easiest to distribute, where you get the most profit, what's most accessible to your audience as well, so that way you can actually sell the book. But either way, whether you're, you know, deciding to publish a book, or getting into painting and selling your art, or, you know, doing hair, or, well, hair doesn't really have to do with publication. I'm thinking more about like physical products that like you are selling to the world, you know, starting a new Etsy shop for jewelry, like whatever you decide to do. It can be difficult, could be a lot of work, and like I hyper summarize this, there's a lot more details, but if there's any, you know, questions you have, always ask in the comments, DM me, whatever, I'll answer. Not whatever, like, you know, not whatever, but I, you know, whatever platform is what I mean, like, reach out and I will let you know, because I'm totally in support of young people doing big things, and I think it's even more important for you to do it when you're young, because one, that's a major flex, right? So I'm gonna tell children, you know, when I'm like, how old would I be when I'm a grandma? Hopefully like 70, right? Yeah. When I'm 70 and they're like, grandma needs to like tell us about your childhood, I'm gonna be like, well, your bad bitch grandma published a book at 19, poo, you know what I'm saying? Like, and what about it? Like, I want that story. And yeah, maybe it's just clout, but I can do that. Like, why not? What reason do I have not to do it, right? Also, when you're younger, people are more forgiving of things not being perfect. Like, you know, if I was 13 and I published a book, versus 19 and published a book, right? Like, if I have a typo, or if it's not the most, like, jaw-clenching piece of art, like, you're 13, it doesn't really matter, you know, like, you still did that. And so people are a lot more I mean, not that you have to be 13, that 19 is bad, I'm just making it a comparison, like, compared to my story, like 19 versus 35, like, people are forgiving. I mean, still just something for you to accomplish on your own. I think, I don't know about you, but I know for me, like, I'm inspired by my own accomplishments, and obviously other people's, but like, doing things that make me proud of me, I think contributes to my self-love. So like, yeah, I don't know, just do big things or do little things, do anything that makes you proud, and if it's gonna make you proud, don't be afraid to put in the work, period. I think this was long, I hope it wasn't. Not quite sure, I'll have to see after I edit, but I hope you'll have a great day, and I hope you appreciated my slay. That rhymed. Give me credit. Give me credit. Subscribe, like, share it with your friends who have big goals, and I will see you next time.